Good morning, everyone here in the room and also all the guests in front of the monitor. We are introducing you now to Work Package 5, the first technical work package of the HealthData at EU Pilot. My name is Irene Zittler. I'm working at the HealthData Lab in Germany, and I am a European project coordinator. And this is my colleague Lionel Grandon. He's a senior IT expert at HealthData Hub, and we are both co-leading Work Package 5. So for today's presentation, we will share our goal, our vision, and we'll introduce you to the first outputs we made and first achievements, and we'll show you the work ahead of us. So our work package is basically the enabler for the first steps of the user journey, which has been introduced before. So you can see the user journey here in the purple box. And our work is to provide the backbone for this user journey, basically to build up a network and messaging infrastructure allowing nodes to exchange information and link with Central Services Portal, which you can see above the orange box. The Central Services will be at the EU level and will include Central Service Portal and authentication. If you look at the EHDS user journey, you can see data discovery and data permit, and we are in close collaboration with the work packages on data discovery as well as data permit, where our colleagues later will introduce you further to. So now I would hand over to Lionel, who will provide you with more information on the infrastructure.
Yes, thank you. Our statement of work package 5, is really to build the technical backend to allow the different steps of the user journey to happen. So our task is really to build the backend infrastructure behind the different technical use cases. During the pilot, we're covering mainly two technical use cases, so two steps of the user journey, the first two ones, which is a metadata catalog, and to allow to exchange through the network informations, metadata about data sets that will allow at the target through a European portal, the Central Services Portal, to discover data sets and allow the researchers to discover data sets they can use for their research. The second one is about, the second use case is facilitate the access, the applications to the different data sets. And this is the second use case we are implementing through our networks. To build these networks, we have mainly three guidelines in mind. Those are the same since the beginning of the project 1 year ago. The idea is to build a scalable network where we can easily add new nodes in the target, to, as much as possible, leverage on open source technologies to allow the different exchanges between nodes, and also be at the heart of the security for the network, the system itself. Going in the correct way. So what did we do this first year? I will really focus on the proof of concept. This is one of our main activity. We, as I said, cover the two technical use cases that I was mentioning before, data discovery and data permit. And during this first year, we were able to develop 4 workflows for data discovery to allow from the nodes to create, update, delete data sets metadata in the European catalogs, and a fourth one to restore a full data set metadata catalog. The second use case is about data permit, and here we cover 2 workflows. The first one to allow data users to apply to data sets from a central place and distribute the applications to the different nodes, and also allow the different nodes to update the different application statuses. so this is really a proof of concept. During this first year, we deliver some components to allow that, and those components, I won't enter into details on those architecture components, but the idea is really to build something that is distributed, which allow different nodes to deploy and be compatible with this network, and to simplify as much as possible the work that will need to be done by each node when they will want to deploy the infrastructure. That's why we created some components that are ready to use, ready to deploy, and that are configurable to adapt to existing information systems that the different nodes have already. So we have those different components, and I won't enter in detail in those architecture. But yeah, so the POC, we already delivered 2 versions, and we have a 3rd version that is planned for the end of the year. And so back to you to explain what how.
Thank you. So what work lies ahead of us? So as you can see here, you can see some of the deliverable we will be delivering until the end of the project next year in September 2024. However, I will focus on the most important 3 right now. And the first one will be the finalization of the minimum viable product. We are planning to do this end of December. So this would be the first very important point. Secondly, we are focusing now on the deployment activities during 2024. There we are still in the framing phase. And finally, we are thinking about how to define the target operating model. So what we are building right now, like the question is, how can we keep it running after the pilot project? So the target operating model will focus on that. And if you want to add something on the target operating model.
No, exactly. You said it. Currently, we are building a prototype, a POC, and the questions will be, the architecture itself is distributed, so the processes to run it at the target needs to be distributed. So we need to think collectively, all together, what will be the processes that we need to put in place to keep this running at the target? How could we handle incidents if they happen tomorrow? How could we handle change management? Those are the questions we will address in the target operating model stream that will start around in the end of the year and until next year. Thank you very much. That's it?
I think so. Should I add something upon the questions? Should I add something upon the questions on the form? No. No. Okay. Well.
Thank you. Thank you. So the type form, we'll see if we can get it running up. If not, we'll send it up after the event in the final email summing up the event. Okay, sorry, I think now you can hear me. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. If we have time, we'll answer a few of them. Probably we won't have time to answer all of them, but we will get back to you on all the questions that we receive in a reflections piece after this event. So send them in, and you'll be sure to get an answer from us either this morning or after the event. Then it's now time for the second presentation. It's a presentation on the work of Work Package 6. And I'd like to call up Pascal and Truls. Pascal is data engineer at Cienzano in Belgium. And Truls is from Norway, from the eHealth Directorate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bonjour à tous. Welcome in Paris. Oh, now it's black. Okay, it's great. Oh, next slide.
There you go.
Okay. Charles and I, and my colleagues Charles and also Charles' colleagues Hans Age, we are leading the work package on metadata. Here are some challenges. Health data in Europe is rare, especially personal level data. I give you an example. In my institute, we've got a lot of sensitive data. When I say personal level data, it's sensitive data. And you see the icon here, I've got a wall, and as a user, I can't see through the wall because this data is protected, meaning in my institute, Scienzano, we've got a lot of data, but as soon as you have to do a research project, what you have to do is to go to your colleagues, say, I've got this research project, what kind of data do you have? Meaning, this data is rare because you can't discover it. That's one main challenge we've got in Europe. Before, in previous project, we used to say the data is fragmented in silos. But here, it's really different, the situation with sensitive data, is you don't find it, you can't touch it. So data is fragmented across organization with different access rules, standards, and quality. That's the situation today, as is. So we are working on metadata. Why? Because there's a need for health-sensitive data to be fair. When I say fair, you have all heard about the fair data principles, but you have to turn this into reality, meaning it's not only publications, scientific publications about the FAIR principles. It's really to find the data and to make it accessible. And you see here, accessible, it means touch the data. So now comes the colors. The vision is to build a HealthData EU infrastructure, a central European infrastructure for discoverable health data. A European health data space aims for a unified, accessible data pool. So here you see the conceptual diagram of this Central European infrastructure. What I have to say, on the right you say European health data space. That will not be the only one data space you will find in Europe. So what we need is standardized metadata for Europe. But it will be a common metadata. I would like to call it lingua franca. And this lingua franca for the European coming data spaces, plural, it will be DCAT. DCAT is a metadata standard for cataloging datasets on the web. So it's a unified method to describe datasets. And it defines shared semantics for the data spaces. And here you see there are several ones. That's the European Commission vision for the digital age. Health, energy, space, mobility. I don't want to turn into technical considerations, but just imagine you are looking for data sets, let's say, in Paris, and you would like to use environmental data. Hey, mobility, have a look here. There's a lot of traffic here, air condition, pollutions in Paris. But you would like to link this data with health data. So when I was speaking about lingua franca, it means if you look for a location, the way you are going to provide this information in the health data space or the mobility data space or the environmental data space will be the same information. So you will be in one shot, federated query, look for this information, Paris location, and you are sure you are going to retrieve this information. About DCAT, so I told you it's a linked data technology, so it will serve our vision of health data EU infrastructure. It will be a technical instrument, and it has been developed by the World Wide Web, and it's supported by the European Commission, especially the CEMIC and the Publication Office, DIGIT. They are working hard on promoting this standard because it's an instrument, and in the health data EU infrastructure, we are going to use this technology. But what is very nice with DCAT, you can fine-tune DCAT for your specific domain. And here it's written, tailored for discoverable and reusable health data So you are able to fine-tune a standard for your proper use without breaking the standard. And that's very important because we have to achieve interoperability between the different data spaces. So achievement, we started a year ago. And first very important exercise we've done, because I was explaining we can fine-tune this metadata standard, so lingua franca for our domain, but for all the other data spaces. We have identified a number of use cases requirements. And now we are working on these requirements, discussing with a technical working group of almost 70 participants. Some of you are in this group. And we try to find out what will be the HealthData extension. And I think by the end of the year, we will have a first draft version. What is very important, and Charles can report on this, as soon as we will have this draft version, we will implement it to test it in reality. Because at the end of a project, we should have something operational. So we are working, for instance, hard with Work Package 5, Lionel and Irene, about making this a reality. We've got a standard, it's already there. We could potentially start with DCAT, but we need also to bring in DCAT some essential metadata properties for our domain. This is where we are. And now I give the mic to Charles.
Yeah. Thank you, Pascal. The Work Package 6 is quite technical. But during the road, we also experience that, well, let's call it enabling environments, the social-technical environments, and we have some experience there, especially from countries that already have tried to use the DCAT standard. And what we have seen as, this is something that we made in Norway and the Nordics together. And we got this metadata. The data owners today, different registries or clinical database or something, they have some metadata. And that is the metadata as is, very often in Excel sheets. And the problem is that to transform that to DCAT, what kind of information should be put into the different properties? And who do we have the resources to make a microservice to do that, or the tool to work in here to do that transformation into DCAT? And do we have the technicians to help us to provide it and use the delivery, or perhaps also for testing purposes a GitHub or an API? And this should be shared by all the catalogs. This is shareable not only with the European metadata catalog, but all catalogs could use this metadata because what Pascal described. So what we have learned is that DCAT is based on training. We need more training. And I think that maybe it's not our responsibility, Pascal, in the work package, but it's need more training with the perspective of the users. You have to turn a little bit around. I don't know where the responsibility for that is, but it's, and we need a toolbox and infrastructure for doing this. And we don't have that. Some countries have that. Some are doing it manually in Excel sheets. And we need dedicated resources for both knowledge about the content in the data, working together with and the needs of metadata fair and all this thing. And that means different people with different background working close together. And that is capacity building now. It's not only one person that can do that. It's a team with different experiences working very closely together. And the fourth thing that's always, and I'm raising this question still, how to deal with metadata that give the user information about semantically interoperability. And then you have to dig down to the variables and the classification and the terminologies that those variables are based on. And can I combine this data from another data source without too much work? And that is not in the DCAT so far. So that means the DCAT so far and the European Metadata Health Data Catalog make you to make the discoverability to find the different data sources in the different country you can apply for, but it doesn't say anything about the semantically interoperability, for example, in 2 different health registries, 2 different health services. So this is something, it's more in the social technical perspective, but I also think that we bring that with us, Pascal. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on to the next presentation. And we also see quite some activity in the chat. Thank you for letting us know and answering the first question on which sector you represent. And we see that online we have mostly researchers with us. Let us know who you are, and also some people that identify with the innovation sector. Then okay, yeah. Then I'd like to invite up Irene Slunder. Irene Slunder is Senior Legal Expert at BBMRI ERIC.
Thank you very much. That works? Yeah. I need to check out if that works. So yep. Okay. Yeah, hello everybody. I'm very happy to be here and to present to you Work Package 7, which is about legal and ethical issues. So as you can see, I'm the bloody lawyer who always says no when somebody comes and wants access to data. This is of course not true. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. They would have chosen somebody else. So I define myself as a troubleshooter, so make it somehow possible to get access. But on the other hand, as Melody has so nicely put it, we need a legal framework for making data fair. There are citizens, patients who trust on us as politicians, as people who work in that field, that we do everything we can to protect their privacy and their rights, their information rights. So Work Package 7 is working on the legal side, and this is since ages now. I'm here with Pascal. We have the 2 main pillars to in a way block and in another way make data fair. That's interoperability on the one hand, and that's the legal framework on the other hand, and both are very complex. So let's dive in what we are trying to do. So you will have much text, not so many images. That's due to the lawyer stuff. I apologize for that. Don't read that all. I just keep it here as a reminder. So this is just copied from our work package. The vision, what is the vision? I think it's quite clear, or it has become clear during also the process of the drafting of the EHDS regulation, that the legal landscape is highly complex. So we have different jurisdictions, we have different approaches, and even though we have a GDPR, a General Data Protection Regulation, we found ourselves in a situation that we are discussing about many terms that we are still not in line, that we have different interpretations in the different member states. And on top we have, of course, different health systems. So again, different laws, how to organize them, and different visions, how that works. So the first thing we tried here is to, again, many other projects did already, we tried to build on it, again, study what is there in the member states, so to have some ground to compare and to come to a harmonized solutions and feed that into the legislatory process. Then we have use cases here in our project, so we need, on the other hand, to always give advice and give some guidelines to those use cases so that they can work. Of course, this is a little bit difficult because EHDS is still a moving target. The regulation is not there, so we here have to work on the level that we always work in research. So we have to build it on the existing law so far. And then what is, I think, our main goal really is normative laboratory. That's a nice description. We just try a little bit out. We try to come together to discuss, and we are establishing now very nice communication channels with the Commission, even so that we come in a way that we develop some common standards here. It's like in interoperability of data. We need just some common understandings, some common standards, and then we can go for solutions even on legislatory level. It's not so easy as it might seem. First achievements, I think even drafting the proposal for me was a nice experience, because even then, in defining tasks, what we are going to do here, we somehow reduced the complexity in a way. So we had many discussions while drafting. I remember when I was even on holidays during Christmas, there were urgent issues to resolve. So just to have a common understanding what to address, how to do it, was also a very first achievement in my humble view. And then we already concluded the so-called legal landscape analysis. That was really a huge questionnaire done by the help of all the participating nodes here. So to find out, even to find out what we would like to know is not easy. So we achieved this, and we got somehow detailed information. It's still a little bit high level, but we can now dive deeper at any moment. And we are still a little bit working on security measures reports, so what's out there in the member states to protect in a technical manner the privacy of the let's call them patients for today, because I think the whole EHDS regulation is more or less starting from the assumption that we start with healthcare data. So it's the first part of the regulation, so allow me just to say patients. We are closely collaborating here with the next work package. It's work package 8, will be presented by Petra and Eva just after me. And that's also very interesting, and there it also came up that we need to talk, because we start from different conceptions here and there. Then ongoing, we have the work of a common data application form. That's totally important, because if you want to have data from different countries, and then you have to apply here and there and again with totally different requirements, with totally different forms, then it's just bureaucracy and not making data accessible. So this is with a collaboration here with the lead of FinData, Peja and Sophia. And this is more work than expected, because you might think, okay, an application form, that's not a big deal, but in the end, we come across all those difficulties that we normally have, so all the differences across member states again. So we postponed it a little bit to do here really a good job and not just, finish and deliver something mediocre. Then we will have the application portal that's also up to the technical team. And then we will work on a model data use agreement. That's then the other side of the user journey. So if you really got a permission, then how to define the terms and conditions. There are different ways. Some countries do it just through issuing a formal administrative permit, or some other choose to have a contract, an agreement. So content-wise, that's pretty the same. Main learnings recommendations so far. I mean, what I already tried to explain, health systems are very diverse. The national infrastructures are very diverse, even the existing ones. So there are some countries where the healthcare data are already made available. That's, for example, FinData. Germany is working on it, but it's not only the European health data space. It's not only about healthcare data. It should include much more. So data stemming from research, data stemming from other sources. So it's complexity is high on national level and even higher on European level. And this is just from our landscape analysis, some example how diverse it is. So I will not go through, my background is German. You can see here multiple legal reference per data source almost everywhere except FinData. And if you compare now Germany, it's even data stemming from the healthcare context. It's just what is now in scope. So we could even shift here the tick box for Germany once higher, because for these data sources we will have a common, a unified legal framework, but for all others we will not have. Germany is very federated, and the ministry has spent much money in infrastructures, and of course they will not be killed. So somehow integrated in the HDS, and there's still a huge discussion how. And this might go on in many other countries in Europe. So it's just now to get to know how the situation is, and then we will see how we will come together. Main learnings and recommendations so far. So we have some different terms, you know. I learned discussing with PEA, for example, HealthData, that they are always talking about registries, and I thought, what registries do they have? Cancer or I don't know what. And then I understood that the health system is built on registries, and that's for all patients. So we don't have that in Germany, and many other countries don't have it. I call it NHS system. That's a little bit a superficial thing, but it's in a country where the healthcare is paid by the taxpayer, so to say, you do not have a social security coverage. The system is totally different. That's true for Finland, that's true for Portugal, that's true for ex-member UK, and then you have to just make sure that you talk about the same data when talking about registries. In Germany, everybody would understand a cancer registry, for example, or disease-based registry. That's something else than claim data, for example. This is data from the Social Security, so more or less comparable to the patient registry in Finland. And anonymized, anonymous, non-passive, that's a huge issue. We are debating since GDPR is there. So yeah, it's one of my favorites, so I stop here to get into it. Otherwise I will talk for 2 hours. Then we came across that we have totally different conceptions, how to apply, how to make sure that it's ethical, valid. And so ethics committees, approval is quite different across countries, and then we have so many other, let's say, different legal concepts. Opt-out, opt-in, consent is another hot topic. I can tell you, even among lawyers, we are not in line what we are talking about anyway. So this is, we have to somehow take into account that we have always make sure that we are on the same level of discussion, that we talk much, because this is how we create a mutual understanding, that we talk across member states, that we talk across disciplines, that we talk with the European level, and I think this is a very, very nice occasion, this project, to really do that on a very high level. So, yeah. The thing is, the law is necessary for protecting people on the one hand, on the other hand, just to create bureaucracy and complexity nobody can somehow work with. This is what we have to avoid. But it's still a huge challenge to establish really, let's say, lean procedures. So not this immense paperwork, but it's not easy. My feeling is that we have this project, we have the EHDS, it has somehow given us a sort of momentum. We come together, we discuss, and we really want to do it. We want to be successful. We are here to be successful, so let's use that moment, let's not give up. It's complex, but somehow we'll get there. And but on the other hand, we have still the legislator here on European level. EHDS is still a moving target. So hopefully some of those things are regulated on the legislatory level. I'm not totally sure about all of them, but one of our deliverables is to recommendations to the legislator, so we'll try to push a little bit in this and that direction, but it's a political level that's beyond our, let's say, remit or scope. What we can do, we can just say it. And we should really keep on talking to each other across disciplines, across member states, and across, let's say, political bodies. The work ahead. Pilot implementation, of course. It's a little bit difficult to implement a regulation that is not yet there. We are, from a legal point of view, we are still bound to the existing legislation that makes it from time to time a little bit difficult. But we are trying to somehow align and draw, you know, from the hurdles we have there, we find there, draw some conclusions for the recommendations. This is pointing, yeah, to existing hurdles, and then hopefully, yeah, we have a successful communication and a huge step forward into European health data space. That's it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Irene. Irene, we actually have one question for you from the audience online.
Yeah.
The question is, and you already highlighted in your second last slide, that this is still up for discussion, but maybe you can already share a few thoughts on this. The question is, in the data permit workflow, how would you manage opt-out? So this was added to the EHDS after the consultation with European Parliament. Could you maybe, in just a few words, share your thoughts on that?
Not in a few words. This is the most difficult question. I can just, I mean, I have a very personal view, but I'm a little bit in line, so my background is German. So I can tell you that, of course, in the German legislation has been discussed just regarding one data source. This is the healthcare data, so in whatever form. And there, 4 levels of opt-out are discussed. So opt-out is very difficult. Opt-out from what? If you opt out on the level of creating a data set, then it's anyway the end, then there are no data to share. If you opt out on giving, to make it available for another practitioner, that's another question. If you opt out to make it available for research is another. And normally, from the perspective of consent, even in Germany, normally it's totally a general rule that you have several layers of consent. So what is in opt-out? Have you the same layers then? Could you block it for industry? Could you block it here and there? So I think the discussion today is a bit under-complex, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry for that answer.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. No, I have a question because you mentioned many legal challenges that the EHDS is facing, and your focus was mostly data privacy, which I understand, of course. Do you also work on the difficulties concerning IP protection, trade secrets protection?
Another very difficult question. I've noticed that there is a upcoming discussion because in the Data Governance Act that Secure Processing Environment has put IP rights into it, what I find a little bit difficult, to be honest. I think this is a totally other end of the, that's not the same discussion because even industry has to keep an eye on privacy, so that would be a level on top. I noticed that industry has an interest in, let's say, not making data available that could endanger patents, for example, and I'm totally aware personally, but it's a little bit beyond our remit. We have an advisory board where a representative of industries there, I think it's from Sanofi, and we discuss it here and there, but I think, to be honest, I'd say it as it is, industry should come up with a robust concept here, because how should the other side manage it? it's, you know, those who have the interest have to say how it's data from industry. So we are more on the side of the healthcare data, how to make them available. So we are not even there to discuss with industry, how could you make your data available? That's a step, in my view, beyond. So I think we should discuss it then. If you are willing to share your data as industry representative, yeah, please go ahead and then we can discuss it. But I would not include it now because we have so many things to do to just, you know, get the a common basis for let's say protected access to data, that industry is not the first thing. So, but I'm always happy and open, and I know the background, but I think it's more on the, let's say, FPA or other associations side to really bring it up and come with a solution, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Then also to share with you the responses on the second question we shared with you on how ready is your country in terms of IT connectivity for the EHDS. And actually a majority, almost all, say that there's a lot of work ahead, which we can also hear in the presentations, of course. Then we also asked you, when thinking about the EHDS IT infrastructure, which of these tasks is the most urgent to address? And from the choices we gave, a large majority said a clear governance between the various actors within the IT infrastructure. So we seem to be rather aligned, with the responses all being quite the same, which is good, I think, in a complex task and a complex project like we have here. Then for this final presentation, I'd like to call up Peter Hollop. He's head of IT at BBMRI ERIC, and he will share the work that Work Package 8 did with data, interoperability, quality, and security.
So, good morning. Yes. Good morning, everybody. And actually, the presentation already assumes the next step that I'll be handing over the Work Package leadership to Eva Garcia Alvarez, who is sitting in the audience, and we're co-leading the work kind of unofficially with Ajax, with Enrique Bernal and Paco Estupiñas from here, who are doing great work and who are actually leading a lot of past work that is in this realm, especially in the TEDAS project, and that are also going to lead further work that is ahead of us dealing with data quality. So what is the goal of this work package? When we designed the project, it was a little different than it is at the moment. This is one of the work packages that has changed, not the ultimate goal, but rather the method, how it's done. Because we were aiming from the beginning to support the use cases when they start touching the data. So we assume the data is discovered. That was Pascal presenting in Work Package 6. The data is requested, so you fill the form of 160 fields that we have at the moment, and we also probably need to prune it a little bit to make it practical. And then you hopefully get, I'm not kidding, that's the form that we are at the moment, 160 fields. And then you are hopefully given access, and this is where the Work Package 8 starts. And we are aiming at giving guidance on the interoperability standards that are supposed to be used. We are supposed to give guidance on data quality measures, and that are or should be put in place, and on how to protect the data when you are touching the data, when you are working with the data. Plus, we have one work that is kind of a bridge between Work Package 6 and Work Package 8, and that is federated data discovery. This is another mechanism how the data can be discovered by privacy-preserving availability querying, but that is already touching the data, so that's why it's in the Work Package 6, Work Package 8, and not in the Work Package 6. What has changed since the proposal was we were asked to move from, say, design work to more observational work, working closely with the 5 use cases you will hear about, I think, from Camille in the work package 9 later on, and collect what they're doing, collect what barriers they're running in, and describe, do synthetic work, what are the common problems, and give the guidance based on this. Don't come up with your own problems, don't come up with the recommendations that would come out of synthetic work from the field, but rather specifically from the use cases. What the work package takes the input from is actually many different areas where this is being touched upon. One is the input from HealthData EU, of course, which is dealing with the use of data for healthcare. It's the input from TEDAS, potentially TEDAS 2 in the second half of the project, Quantum project that starts in January next year, working on the data quality label within EHDS. And also other research infrastructures that are established since now 10 years, like Elixir and BBMRI, working on sensitive health and research-related data. And projects like European Joint Programming for Rare Diseases, Beyond 1 Million Genomes, or the eHealth Network, but also the work that comes from different standardization bodies, such as ISO, which is working on patient records, HL7, ODC, or Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. Where we stand at the moment is we're closely working, regularly working with the 5 use cases we have. We also understand that the portfolio of the use cases that the project has at the moment is limited to 5, because that is what we were able to cover with the budget and with the partners that are within the project. So there is still a bias in the use cases in the sense that many of them are coming from public health or regulatory work, and there is, I would say, only one, which is, say, classical one, which is led by Elixir on genomics and use of or correlation of clinical and genomic data. And we are synthesizing the input from those we're helping where we are asked for help. And we have delivered so far the preliminary recommendations on data interoperability and preliminary recommendations for quality assurance and privacy enhancing technologies. And what are, if we summarize it quickly, what are the outcomes at the moment is the use cases are focusing to do the analysis in a federated manner, primarily to simplify their lives so that they don't need to centralize everything upfront, adding additional layer of complexity of data transfers. However, we will closely monitor this because in the work package 8, we are very well aware of the perils of federated data processing. If you don't have hands-on access to the data, you need to have very good understanding of the semantics of the data and have very good, very high assurance of the quality, because otherwise you end up with just garbage in, garbage out in a federated manner. And without even noticing, because if you don't have access to the data, you're only sending computation to the data and the data is garbage, then the outcome of the computation is also garbage. We were discussing with the use cases if they considered return of the data. That is also a mechanism that is being discussed within the EHDS between us and the Commission on how the data that is generated as a part of the reuse of data from EHDS, how that should flow back into the existing data sources. I mean, this is one of the potential roles of, strong roles of research infrastructures within EHDS to take care of such data if it comes from the international environment specifically and dealing with international data sets. but it's also possibly something that popped up here in the collaboration with industry about those IPs and how you deal with data return there. So far, the use cases are not even thinking about it because they're deep in their in other problems. Data models and vocabularies have been defined for all the use cases as a part of the first steps that happened in the first year of the project, of course. However, that also showed the complexity of defining the data sets, and that's something that needs to flow also into the discovery, for instance, that those models are adjusted based on what's available, because many or several use cases started with very optimistic view of what will be available, only to realize that far from that, and we need to trim the models and trim our expectations on the data depth or extent that we're able to get. Some use cases started their initial work on the data quality, so that is being collected together with us. The Sensano use case is working on data linkage. And actually, one of the use cases, the Elixir one, is thinking about starting even with the synthetic data because of the complexity in getting the data that is, say, research data, advanced data that they need for public health type of the data that they are aiming to work with. So this is also something we will propagate into those recommendations that possibly EHDS might support target use cases by providing synthetic data as an interim solution before the actual use cases can get the actual hands on the real data to validate or to further develop the models. What are the things that are ahead of us is continuing the work with the use cases, providing updated deliverables on recommendations on standards for data interoperability and quality. We are now still collecting the nodes within the project to do the pilot on federated querying of availability. And the final one at the end of the project will be recommendations on the privacy enhancing technologies, which is kind of collaboration between work package 7 and 8, because that's not just a technical one, and it heavily interlinks the legal and technical domains. And this is just the workflow of the user, so that you get an idea, get an overview how it flows. There is the data preparation part, which is done at the nodes, at the sources of the data, which starts with the collection, standardization, and eventually publication of the publication of the data. And then we are now here in this data use part, which goes through the access, through the use, to the finalization, possibly data return, and we have mapped those things, those steps on the use cases. I mean, this is exemplified here on the antimicrobial resistance by ECDC. So that's just to give you a glimpse of how the workflow looks and in which ecosystem we work, and we are basically supporting the use cases in this part. So that's about it from my side. I think we are here at the question of how mature is your institution or your country implementing the EHDS in terms of data quality and interoperability. So feel free to give your feedback on this. Thank you.
I'll let you know what's happening in the chat. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. We also had... okay.
Where? Mario, if you can read it. Thank you.
I will find it. So there's one question which is partly to you and partly to Irene, probably. It says data linkage is key to increase the quality of data, but how do you intend to perform data linkage without breach to GDPR? With some more detail, would you envision to work through EUDI digital wallets to get electronic consent.
So, for the data linkage, I don't think that this is something that violates GDPR. It depends on how it's done, and there can be different legal bases how things are, how this is done. There are technical mechanisms that are either using mechanisms of so-called trusted third parties, or secure multi-party computing that can be used for even distributed linkage. So then how it works is, in case of trusted third parties, it means there is an entity and it can be part of the HDAP, but it can be also elsewhere. For instance, EU PIT, run by AIT in Austria has become such an entity for some registers. Also, European Joint Research Center in ISPRA, which is developing their SPIDER system, is aiming to do it for rare diseases, for instance. So how that works is basically this is a system where the data sources have contracts with and send the data to that place generates linkable pseudonyms and returns those linkable pseudonyms back to the data source, or potentially releases the data through the trusted third party directly. If the linkable pseudonyms are returned, you're then releasing, you can release the data from multiple sources to the recipient, and because they're linkable, those pseudonyms, the resulting data set is linkable. What is more difficult problem, and we see it in some Nordic countries, is when the data is so heavily distributed vertically across different registers, meaning that you have different types of data in different registers, to the extent that you are asking any single register does not give you even sufficient answer for discovery of the data. So, for instance, if just to give you a practical example from Norway, which we had 10 years back when BBMRI was collecting colorectal cancer cohort, we asked if you have samples with C18, C19, and C20 diagnosis and FFPE material or cryopreserved material available. And we realized that at that time, BBMRI Norway had big trouble answering the question, because they had the data about samples, but they didn't have the diagnosis, because they were sitting in some other register. And at that time, the purpose was to build a data set for further reuse. We didn't have direct scientific question, and then they did not have basis for asking the register for the data. So that's a topic which, and we know that there are also issues in Denmark similar to this. So we need to look into this when it even kind of hampers discovery in that sense.